Much for giving me this time to talk to you about Zimbabwe, some country that you've always had passion about, based on what the history of this country, that country is. What have you seen in Zimbabwe? Literally, your reaction to what's happening in Zimbabwe?
Well, what I've seen on our television screens. We've seen a lot of the brutality against the long-suffering people of that country. And today I decided to meet up with some Zimbabwean citizens who are here in Botswana to also hear from them personally what they have experienced and what their relatives are experiencing over there, to really have a better appreciation of, how bad the situation is there. And really what they told me was quite appalling.
What did you hear?
Well, they were going on about the brutality by the security forces, both the army and the police, against innocent citizens in that country. They were going on about the corruption that is taking place in the country. They were going on about how even the security forces themselves are not well paid, and how you have a whole series of roadblocks down one road where they get people, they find people, there's something wrong with your vehicle, even though there's nothing wrong, just so that they can find them and get money for themselves. They talked about the health services, how they have literally collapsed. I mean, it was just a litany, one thing after the other. How even, water gets mixed up, drinking water gets mixed up with sewage water, because there's no maintenance of the flow of water through pipes, and it's just as I said, there were just so many things that they were bringing to my attention.
Have you reached out to any Zimbabwean official to discuss this issue, to find out what could be done and how can it be done?
No, I haven't, because I don't think I have that mandate anymore to be able to do that. So all I can really do is just to express my support and sympathy with Zimbabwe.
In terms of the current president, you were there, the inauguration. How have you seen him? Disappointed in what's happening in Zimbabwe about him?
I was at his first inauguration, the one which took place after Mugabe stepped down. I went there, and I was really very happy to hear the words that he expressed at that inauguration about how he was now, what were his plans for the country going forward. And I thought to myself, coming away from there, that this is great news, and we wish him all the best and all the success. That now there'll be a break from the past of how things were done in that country, and finally now Zimbabwe will be put on the road of prosperity and development and peace and stability. And in fact, when I wrote that open letter to Mugabe, asking him to step down in the interest of Zimbabwe in order to usher in a new era for prosperity in that country, well, he stood down. I'm not saying it's because of my letter, but he did stand down. But then, unfortunately, that part of the letter, which was hoping that there would be that new dispensation, unfortunately has not happened. And these citizens of Zimbabwe I was talking today were actually telling me that it is worse now in Zimbabwe than it was under Mugabe.
Earlier on, you posted on Facebook something to do with Ian Smith and the white minority in Rhodesia. You posted a picture of people sheltering, being afraid of the police in Zimbabwe, and you say this, and I quote: "Now 40 years later and under majority rule, nothing seems to have changed for a long-suffering people of Zimbabwe other than the name of the country and that of its leaders. Free Zimbabwe," end quote. You've heard what is happening in Zimbabwe. You know how long the country has been going through all of this mishaps and, humanitarian crisis after humanitarian crisis. Let me talk to you about solutions. As a former president, what are the solutions for Zimbabwe? If you were to have a magic wand, what that country does, what does it need?
The first thing it needs is a genuine, credible, free and fair election. so that people can exercise their democratic rights to choose the people that they want to run them. And the problem is that there's been rigging during their elections that hasn't allowed that to happen. Because, believe me, as we know here from those Zimbabweans who reside in Botswana, who have come to work here in Botswana, that country has got so much potential. Their biggest and their greatest resource are their people. And they have a lot of people there who would be able to turn things around.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, you went off, so I wasn't sure if you were...
No, I'm still here. I'm listening attentively.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that is the starting point, plus the fact that in SADC, which has been, unfortunately absent and quiet through this entire saga, even in the past when there have been some attempts to get involved, they've sort of just been nibbling at the edges. What you need is proactive and constructive engagement. Proactive, I mean, they must speedily get involved. And a constructive engagement means that they must just say, no, we're not playing around. We expect you, we demand of you, even though you're an independent state, that you must follow the rules. Otherwise, there will be consequences for you. Because we can't continue like this. I mean, when you refer to Ian Smith and all that, minority rule, white minority rule, and majority rule, I mean, we were there during the War of Liberation. And as I refer to it, it was successful, bringing about ending oppression by minority rule and bringing about independence for that country. And the people there were fighting for their freedom. So you didn't want to change one oppressor with another oppressor. So whatever color the oppressor is, there's still an oppressor. And that's the point I was making, is that really all that's changed seems to have changed, is, because of course there have been things along the way which there have been some positive development, but all that has been eroded. It's all been erased now.
The issue of the organs like SADC, AU, even internationally for some extent, European Union, you name them, the United Nations, there's always citizenry. They have a feeling that this is just lip service. Nobody is out to basically do the dialogue or engage in the dialogue that you are advocating for right now, former president. How is there anything that can be done in terms of to change the perception and to get our leaders to speak out clearly what the demands of the protocols that they have signed, the agreements that they have signed as a country, rather than just becoming lip service and ceremonies to sign documents?
You hit the nail on the head by saying that. A lot of the times these things are just sort of like done to look politically correct. That we have signed this protocol on the conduct of elections, we have signed this protocol on democracy, this protocol on trade and what have you. And then they just go home and it's business as usual. And some of these people, in the case, what I know personally from having spoken to some other leaders, they just thought, it's been going on for so long. Sanctions have been tried, pressure has been tried, but it just gets thrown back at you. And those further afield, like whether it's in the West or wherever, they will just say to you, but, really at the end of the day, it's you people. You always talk about African solutions for African problems. So what are you doing? What is the solution? What have you shown for Zimbabwe? Zero, nothing. So that's why we are where we are today. And they just tend to bury their heads in the sand and just think, well, it's not their problem. And then they get on with it. But it is our problem. Because we also feel the effects of it when we have a neighbor, an immediate neighbor, who's going through all these problems. It does affect us.
I just had a conversation just now with the MDC Alliance acting president, Professor Welshman Mnangagwa, and I asked him about input like people like yourselves, the likes of Thabo Mbeki. We have seen African countries being changed by a former statesman. Would you take the baton and maybe lead on this conversation, former president?
Okay, I'll say it. If I was asked to play some role in trying to assist, bring about a path, a solution to what's going on in Zimbabwe, how could I on one hand be the one to criticize what's going on, and then when you're asked to help, you say, no, I don't want to, because that would be hypocritical. So yeah, I guess if I was asked to help, I'd be prepared to do so.
From those who are from Zimbabwe listening to you, you had the fellow countryman talking to you earlier on. What message, as a last comment for my Excellency, what last word would you like to part with for them?
You know, I'd love to say to them, hang in there and just try your best. But they've been hanging in there for so many years. They've been trying their best for so many years. I think the time has come, as I said earlier, where they have to do something much more. You know, even though it means a personal sacrifice. You know, even if it's nationwide protest, if it is withdrawal of labor, if it's deliberately flooding across our borders, you know, to neighboring states, to make them sit up and pay attention to what's going on in that country and do something about it. Because they've tried their best. But the poor people, they just get brutalized and battered left, right, and center all the time. And you know, it's tragic.
Former President Khama, thank you so much for making time to speak to me this evening.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Okay.
The views and opinions expressed on this